In weeks 5 through 7, we shift to the Advocacy Project. The project prompt gives a general description of both the essay parts of the assignment and the video presentation, which we'll be working on in the final weeks of class. As was the case with the HCP, I encourage you to pay more attention to the individual assignment prompts, as these give a clearer breakdown for what's required for this class, rather than for writing 39C in general. The AAP Proposal will be due the Tuesday of next week, and you'll see that it asks for 3 different aspects of 2 or more potential solutions to the problem you analyzed in your HCP. It's always better to have more potential solutions to compare, even if you end up arguing against some of them. The analysis for this essay will depend on how carefully you can compare the 3 aspects of each solution, so the more variety you have, the more potential for analysis. You probably won't know definitively which solutions you'll ultimately advocate in your essay. It's entirely possible that you'll come across a solution in the next couple of weeks that totally changes your thinking about it. But you should at least be able to say which solutions from your initial research look most feasible, as well as provide a few questions you aim to analyze as you continue. Ideally, this essay will be more or less a continuation of the work you did for your HCP, shifting from the recent history of the problem to the present state and the possibility of its future resolution. But I'd like to stress that the resolution should be thought of rather modestly and conservatively. The truth is that total solutions to global problems just aren't that plausible. When has any institution, policy, or technology ever fixed everything for the entire world, without also engendering additional imbalances in power, distribution, education, and socioeconomic status? You'll actually get a better grade for giving a realistic portrayal of the costs and risks associated with even the solution you think is most beneficial overall, than you would for painting a one-sided picture that makes one solution look perfect and all the others flawed. It's also entirely possible for solutions to overlap. This is what I mean by scope and duration. Perhaps one of your solutions is a law that would operate on a national or international level. On this level, the solution might not describe your problem directly. Perhaps it only frees up funding and resources that might then be used to treat your problem more specifically. By itself, such a general solution wouldn't make for a particularly compelling essay. But if you were to find a specific example of a research project or experimental community program that targets the problem more directly, you might be able to make the case that the more specific and local part of the solution depends on the more general solution. If you've been thinking about problems within the scope of the United States or some other nation, you might also take examples of nations that deal with the problem more effectively as a general solution. Then you can research the feasibility of the programs within your target nation that you think could be adopted without too much unnecessary cost. Maybe the most ideal or idealistic solution is not the best solution overall, within a specific context. Perhaps the ideal solution is too expensive, and the best solution is actually a more economically viable or smaller scale version of the ideal. Maybe policies for enforcing discrimination laws that have worked well in the US are incompatible with the politics of other nations. Your job isn't to convince us that the solution works absolutely, but rather to show where, how, and under which conditions it would work best. Narrowing the scope of your solution down to a specific locality can significantly enhance your analysis. Many times solutions that would benefit the world are actually developed within the context of a crisis. So one of your research questions might be where the problem is most critical or acute, and what have the most acutely affected areas done? How have their approaches failed and succeeded? Why and how might this be expanded beyond the locality? And can it be expanded beyond this locality? Here you can see why I might have pushed you away from more general problems in the HCP. If you feel like you're having trouble finding specific solutions for the Advocacy Project, it's possible to modify it somewhat, and this is something that you can address in your AP proposal. You can even use your questions about the viability of your new topic as research questions. The Advocacy Research page provides many helpful sources, but I also encourage you to go off the beaten path somewhat in your research. Were there any scholars, institutions, or labs that you found particularly useful in your HCP research? Are you worried that you can't find other sources dealing with the problem that specifically? Before you give up on the idea of pursuing the specific angle on the problem, take a moment to see if you can't contact a representative from one of your sources directly. by phone or email. You may not receive a reply in time, but you may also be able to acquire some valuable primary research of your own, some that's not even available in any database. Some of the best advocacy projects, in fact, have gone beyond the basic research methods and pursued interviews with actual people working to resolve the problem. Also note that by the time you submit your AP draft, you'll need at least 10 sources, covering the variety of evidence that was asked for in the HCP. For Friday, there's another set of sample essays to be reviewed in Hypothesis. Try to incorporate some of the questions I've posed here into your critiques. And remember too that if you're having trouble loading Hypothesis on the Canvas page, you can also try accessing it from our group page.